after raising issues?
Congressman, that article just came out. We have a team looking into it.
Brand Miller was the recent case. The first New York Times article, which is more than a month old now. That's the one that mentioned
protections for whistleblowers, so I wouldn't necessarily know about specific cases. It may be.
Did you bother to even look into what I'm suggesting? Did you bother to even look into these? It sounds like you didn't. So let me ask you this question, Matt Haygood, a senior director of children's services at the U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants, one of the largest of organizations, sent an email with the subject line "trafficking concerns," and he talked about trafficking, but he said there was no follow-up there. Are you working to make corrections when you get tipped off that there are people that are trafficking in these children?
Absolutely. When a concern is raised to our office, we are following up on it. I cannot speak to what happened before I came, and I cannot speak to during the border backup. What I can tell you is today's ORR, we are hearing, we're listening, we're making sure sponsors and children have more information. They know how to get help.
Last question I'll ask you. UACs under TVPRA, if they're from Mexico and Canada, they're returned home immediately. Do you think that's a policy that should be enforced from all countries, to return them to their families?
Congressman, ORR is not a law enforcement agency or an immigration enforcement agency, and that's outside of my jurisdiction as ORR director.
So you don't want to opine on that? Is that what you're saying?
My mandate is to care for.
You don't want to opine on that? Is that right?
My mission as ORR director is to care.
So I guess the answer is you don't want to opine. Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to have to be answered after this hearing. Congressman Perry.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Director, just to set the framework, as I understand it, ORR has a statutory obligation to care for the unaccompanied child. That's what I'm reading here in your mission or your mandate, right?
That is correct.
Statutory, so they have a law, there's a law, the obligation to care for these individuals. If that's the case, why is it on March 22nd ORR removed the proof of address requirement and exempted other household members from submitting to a background check or providing identification? How does that aid in the obligation to care? Move proof of address requirement.
I think what you're referring to was in the spring of 21.
Yeah, March 22nd, 2021. I gave you the date. What?
Okay, when there were
how does
children backed up, over 4,000 in DHS.
So since they're backed up, we just remove the requirement, lower the standard. I mean, that's essentially what we're saying, right?
There are a number of layers of...
I get it, but how does that enhance?
Steps.
Okay, maybe I should ask the question this way. Does that removal of the proof of address requirement for the household members that are submitted for, these children that we're trying to find a place for, does that enhance your obligation to care, or does it not enhance it?
Congressman, we check the addresses of all sponsors.
It says proof of address requirement and exempted remove the proof of address. So you can check, but you don't have any proof, right? You can ask. I get it. You ask, right? Hey, what's your address, Mr. or Mrs. Sponsor? And they give you the address and you write it down, and that's the end of it now, right? There's no requirement of proof of address.
I don't think that that's a fair characteristic of the thorough vetting process that our staff go through. And if there is any
Well, let me ask you this then. On March 31st of 2021, so just a couple days later, ORR eliminated the background check requirement for immediate relatives other than a parent or legal guardian. Why would that be? How does that enhance the obligation to care?
ORR's belief is that a child is best with their parent.
Okay, awesome. I believe that too. Let me ask you this. How do you know that they're with their parent? How do you know? Are you familiar that the Department of Homeland Security under 8 U.S.C. 1365B shall create a biometric entry and exit data system? right? Even though they haven't implemented anything like that, other than asking and other than public source information, how can you be sure it's their parent?
Congressman, we go through a number of vetting procedures. We ask
sure you do.
the child and the parent or the sponsor questions on the same day. We verify things with consulate.
Okay, so what's the percentage of children that are reunited with their parent? Provable. What's your percentage? And how do you prove that?
We go through a number. Of steps.
No, what's the percentage, ma'am? I know you go through a number of things. You're stalling. Just answer. Just tell me. Do you have a clue?
So in this fiscal year, I believe 37%.
37% end up with their parent.
With their parent.
Let me ask you this: do you ever refer for charges for abandonment? Do you understand that abandonment in many states is a felony offense, and these children are coming to the border without their parent, which qualifies them as unaccompanied, right? That's the characterization. Are charges ever referred for abandonment?
Congressman or is not a law enforcement.
I didn't say you were a law enforcement. I didn't ask you to enforce the law. Do you ever refer? Like if you found somebody doing a criminal act in your vetting process to one of these children, you're not a law enforcement agency. Would you refer charges? In that case,
we would refer to and report to the.
Okay, so how many have you referred or reported for abandonment?
Our job.
Is that zero? Because they're all coming to the border unaccompanied. And if they're unaccompanied, that means they don't have their parent, right? I mean, by definition.
Our job by Congress is to provide for the care.
God bless you. We want you to do the job. The question is, these kids, look, I'm not reading from stuff that I made up. We got ORR sent over 100 unaccompanied children to a single family house in Texas. I mean, if this vetting process is working.
Badjar people live in the middle of the sea, rarely go on land, have no nationality, no fixed abode, no money, and they go spear fishing without scuba gear and not even oxygen tanks. 2011. This article can't be found anywhere now. This amazing lady kept it all these years. Share the arse of this. Sovereign independent. Depopulation through forced poisonation, the zero carbon solution. And that's Penny, someone I know from up northwest. Understand that 200 calories of this is better than 0 calories of this. It's more important to understand the imbalances in your body's basic system and restore balance rather than name the diseases and match the pill to the ill. Fruit-infused water. Easy combinations for natural detoxification. Green tea plus mint plus lime. Cucumber plus lemon plus lime. Lime plus orange plus lemon. Cucumber, strawberry, kiwi. Did you know coconut water and watermelon are great at hydrating the body? They are rich in electrolytes that can reduce stress, lower muscle tension, improve heart health, and lower high blood pressure. And you should eat the seeds. They're the most nutritious seeds known to man. How to clean your lymphatic system. Concord grapes and key limes are extremely alkalizing for the body and full of antioxidants. They're recognized as nature's greatest lymphatic cleanser and have been found to eliminate cancer. Water is not a human right. WEF orders governments to begin rationing water into homes. From drag queen to devil. That's where they was always headed, but destroying the kids along the way.
Klaus Schwab was born in 1938. So obviously those are fundamentally historic years in Western history. We're approaching World War II. Lots of people wanted to believe he was Hitler for something, and he just fought. But by the end of the World War, he would have been 6 years old. So his father would have been the person he looked up to, and he did. He followed everything his father said. Now, his father was the head of a Nazi model company. Eugen Schwab was the managing director of the Ravensburg branch. Escher Weiss itself was making U-boat submarine parts, flamethrowers for the Germans during the time, atomic bombs and etc., and bits for fighter planes. So every single part of the war machine had a little bit of Escher Weiss in it. His father worked for the Nazis creating heavy water, and heavy water was used in the enrichment of uranium. So it was a natural way of enriching uranium. Was Eugen Schwab part of the Nazis who were standing outside the Ravensburg town hall in 1938 where a picture was taken, that still causes controversy in that part of Germany when you mention it, because people hate seeing that all of the Nazis were so proud and happy Ravensburg was such a big Nazi town. Ravensburg wasn't targeted all through the war. What you saw is a lot of rich German people who had helped within the race to eugenically modify the world. Including 691 patients in Ravensburg who were euthanized during the war. 691 who were euthanized. That's a lot of people who were euthanized in Ravensburg.
Probably familiar with the name Klaus Schwab by now. He's been the head of the World Economic Forum since its founding in 1971. You know, he's one of those unelected men telling us what we can and cannot do. All for the good of mankind, of course. What most people don't know is that Klaus Schwab's father, Eugen Schwab, ran a forced labor camp producing weapons of war for that one German party from World War II that I cannot say on here without getting flagged. That same German party even awarded his branch the title of National Socialist Model Company. Yes, that's correct. Klaus Schwab's father ran an award-winning forced labor camp. After studying at Harvard, Klaus Schwab went back to Germany and helped his father's company, Escher Weiss, merge with another company that also had a bad reputation for doing dirty deals with that same German party from World War II. During that time, they started selling secret nuclear weapons technology to the South African apartheid regime when it was illegal to do so by international law. That is who is leading the Great Reset. That is who wants to create a one-world government. That is one of a small handful of men controlling nearly every government in the world and trying to tell us that he knows best.
Okay, so when the big banks finally go down, or when your bank goes down, you people need to be looking for this. And when they come back up, this is months ago, I told you folks you should be studying contract law. Because if your bank switches currency, that is voiding your mortgage contracts. I told you to study contract law. If you don't understand that statement, I can't do it for you. If you want to be free, you must learn how to take responsibility for your freedom. So let's paint a scenario here. Your bank goes down on a Friday. Monday they come up and you have digits in your account again. I would assume that is a CBDC, that is not fiat currency. When your mortgage becomes due, make sure you have cash on hand. You take cash directly to your bank and you attempt to make your payment with the cash. If they refuse it, they just voided your mortgage. Okay, and I could expand on that a little bit more. But nonetheless, if you do not know how to stand on this according to contract law, it's not going to do you any good anyways. So make sure you have a copy of your mortgages and you're reading through your contracts and you're looking up the definitions, like I told you folks before, because your mortgage contracts were created in this system of fiat currency. And if the banks switch their currency, that is breach of contract. because there's no way that a fiat currency is going to transition to a CBDC for the same amount of value. And they have to prove that it's the same currency. If they're telling you it's the same currency, then why wouldn't they accept your cash? That's a whole other issue, though. So if you're not prepared for a banking collapse now, what do? What do? We're all poor, right? We haven't been able to go out and buy land and get the things that we need to prepare. So this is what I mean by I believe God is using the cryptocurrency as a stepping stone for his people to get his people out. And I know that folks feel like, well, I don't want to buy into the system. The digital currency system's already here, okay? You not participating in it and putting yourself in a position to have to accept a CBDC is going to be very bad for you and your family. Because guys, once you spend $1 of that, you have just agreed to the system. So for those of you concerning your mortgages, as I was just saying earlier, make sure you do not spend $1